You're listening to the Outstanding Life Podcast with your host, Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. As a motivational speaker, Johnny D impacts audiences around the world with his message of living the outstanding life. He's a best-selling author, MC, and two-time Grammy-considered artist. This podcast is a place where Johnny D can introduce you to his outstanding friends and share funny, interesting, and heart-provoking stories. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. Here comes your host, Johnny D.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Outstanding Life Podcast, where we feature some of the most inspiring and successful stories. Today, I'm thrilled to have with us one of the most talented and driven drivers who has carved a name for himself in this fiercely competitive world of racing. None other than Grant Enfinger. So get ready as we chat with Grant about his journey, his achievements, and his unbeatable spirit that makes him one of the most respected drivers in the game. Ladies and gentlemen, Grant Enfinger. Grant, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's good to talk to you there, Johnny.
Man, Grant, first of all, congratulations on your big win in St. Louis. How about that?
How about that? You know, that wasn't even planned that way, huh? So we planned this a couple weeks ago. So that's cool to be coming off a high like that for sure.
Well, it's got to be kind of nice to have one of those wins that you are able to enjoy it for now a couple weeks, right?
It really is. So we're coming to the end of a 5-race stretch here, which, I feel like in the grand scheme of NASCAR world, that doesn't sound like too much. But for us truck teams, that's a pretty grueling stretch for us. It's good. We get to soak this in. We get to enjoy it for a couple weeks. So that's great.
Well, Grant, I mean, you get to enjoy it because you get to spend $50,000 of your extra dollars that you got there. You got the big check, not only the big check because it's $50,000, but I saw that big cardboard check that you were holding up there at St. Louis.
Yeah, so actually Sarah Beam that's been with GMS forever. She's part of the PR and marketing department there. She's actually talking to me today, and we're having a luncheon for everybody to celebrate the win tomorrow. And she's like, why don't you sign your name on the check, for people to take pictures in front of it? I was like, man, I wanted to endorse the back of it and take it to the bank and just see what they say, I mean, I know they won't cash it, but it at least make me feel better.
Grant, coming up through the ranks, did you win a lot of those big, cardboard checks? And if so, do you still have some of those?
I feel like I won one of those cardboard checks when I was, 17, 16, something like that in Legends cars. It was a race at Sunny South Raceway. And I want to say back in the day, it was a big money race. And I think it was $1,500 to win or something like that. So my mom still has that. It's still at my parents' house, and I wouldn't let her throw it away. I think that's the only one of those big cardboard checks I have. So, it's pretty cool. To be honest with you, they interviewed me after the race, and I completely forgot that it was an extra $50,000 for that race. This stuff is so tough. Like, that's honestly the last thing in my mind when it comes down to a green light checkered or whatever. You're wanting to beat all those guys for pride and all the effort that you and your guys put in for this stuff. It's great to have a cherry on top, so to speak. And $50,000 is a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. But that's definitely not why we do this. That's for sure.
Grant, not only did you win the $50,000, you won the race, but you also let everybody know that you're expecting your second child. How about that, huh? Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was able to talk to my wife soon after that, and she was not expecting that announcement. but it was a good moment. It just kind of felt right. She had kind of had her good checkup about a week and a half ago, so we were starting to tell our close friends and our family, and it just kind of felt right to just get it all out there. So yeah, she wasn't too mad at me, but she was that caught her off guard as much as everybody else, I guess.
Grant, before I get into, your background on racing, I have to go here. How did you meet your wife?
So we went to school our entire lives together. So we both are from Fairhope, Alabama, which is in LA, lower Alabama. It's about as low in Alabama as you can get. So right near the coast. And we went to school and lived our whole lives there. Both of our families are still down there. My parents and her parents live a half a mile from each other. She would never give me the time of day when we were in the same state and the same zip code right down the street. But, I guess this was going on 10 years ago. I invited her to a race after I had since moved to Charlotte, and maybe she was on the rebound. I'm not sure, but she finally warmed up to the idea of seeing me, and we started dating when I was in Charlotte, and she had moved back home. She had bought a house. She was settling down back there, and then lo and behold, we started dating and got married, and she moved up here. I guess 7 years ago or 8 years ago now. So, yeah, we went to school all through grade school, all through high school and all, and she wouldn't have anything to do with me, Johnny. But,
funny.
I finally wore her down.
So I have to ask, and I don't think I've ever asked you this, but how did you propose to her?
Yeah, that's actually a good story. I guess the easiest way to say is like, my life is kind of, it has been so racing driven. All through middle school, I started taking racing super serious through high school and all. So I was never one to be very romantic. I would skip a lot of stuff that you're supposed to do with your girlfriend to go racing and to even just work on race cars to make them go faster and stuff like that. So it ended up being a racing story. We won the ARCA race in Daytona on Valentine's Day, 2015. And I had a ring for about 3 or 4 months and just kind of waiting for, I guess, God's timing and for it to just feel right for me. And it felt right. And this was probably 1 or 2 in the morning. We kind of got done celebrating our Daytona win and asked her to walk out on the beach with me. And I proposed, and I had asked her if she would marry me eventually. Because at that time in life, I did not particularly want to get married, but I knew that the God had put her in my life and I was supposed to be with her. And I was still kind of wrapping my brain around marriage and what that meant and all that. And I foresaw us being engaged for a good 2, 3, 4, if I played my cards just right, 5 years. But I knew that Michelle was who I wanted to spend my life with. And I knew that like God had put her in my life, and I knew I was supposed to marry her, but I had grown for so long. It had been all race cars and I didn't even want to get married, but I knew that like, hey, she did not have that approach. She wanted to be married and wanted to have a family and all that. So needless to say, we were married within a year after that.
Now, was she a big fan of racing?
Absolutely not. So where I'm from in Fairhope, Alabama, I guess the easiest way to say it's right near Mobile. There has been some racers come from the Mobile area, and obviously, Alabama in general, with Bobby and Donnie and Red Farmer and all our racing heroes. Alabama has brought out racers, but where I'm from in Alabama, it is all football. Nobody cares much about racing, to be honest with you. And we do have some great tracks. There's a Legends Car track there at Sunny South Raceway, late model track there in Mobile International Speedway, and Pensacola's Five Flag Speedway. There are racetracks down there, but everything is it's about college football. And so because college football is so important, high school football is so important. So really, she wasn't a race fan. None of my friends, were huge race fans or anything like that. It was just something, I'd always had a passion for. My dad was a race fan and stuff like that. But no, she had no idea about racing. She has grown to I think, genuinely enjoy the racing part of it. I think she still gets exhausted with the extracurriculars of racing and the craziness that goes along with it. And I think she gets emotionally drained from just, it's a roller coaster of emotions. Weekly, like a week ago, it was a completely different emotion around here. And then now we won, and hey, life is good. And we're about to go back to Nashville in a couple weeks. And if we struggle in practice, it's going to be the end of the world again, and,
right.
And I don't have a deal lined up yet for next year. So there's uncertainty. she has not gotten used to the craziness of it. But I think actually racing, I could see her genuinely actually watching a race to enjoy it some now, and she would have never done that before.
So do you think that your wife actually watches you race?
Yes, and I think she pays attention. And unfortunately, or I don't know exactly, I would, I guess, call it unfortunate from her standpoint and the conviction it puts on me standpoint. But NASCAR has an awesome app that allows people to listen to the radio, so she enjoys when she's not at the track with me, she listens to the app and is listening. She can hear channel 1 and channel 2 of our radio, basically anytime we're at a companion race. So other than, 6 or 7 races of the year, she can hear our radio transmission. I think she listens to that and thoroughly enjoys that, and just, kind of watches the race on mute, but listening to our radio, she can kind of understand what's really happening with us the whole time and all. And I'm a pretty mild-mannered guy, but sometimes I do spout off and get more passionate than I probably should. And she's always there to remind me of that when I get home. So.
Something that I think is just incredible. And I want you to tell everybody, they say behind every good man, there's even a better woman. And it sounds like Michelle is that person for you. But, she does something special that even if she's not at the racetrack, she puts something inside that race truck every single time you get inside that truck. And that is a scripture. She sends it to you, or she writes it out if she's there. And tell everybody about that and how it started.
Yeah, no, that's very cool, and I appreciate you asking me about that, Johnny. But that a friend of ours named Jason Cannell, who used to live back where we did, he started that for me about it. It has to be close to 10 years ago, and he would come up with a verse and give it to me before every race, and we'd always put it in the truck. And since Michelle and I got married, and he was actually in a pretty bad wreck 3 or 4 years ago. Michelle was they got to where they would kind of take turns, and they would text each other on what verse was going in and who would pick it out and stuff like that. And since then, since he's been in his accident, Michelle has done most of that. And yeah, before every truck race, we write out a verse, and more or less normally, one or two verses. And sometimes there's been a theme. Last year she kind of had a theme. This year it's more like the verses that are speaking to her currently. This weekend it actually came from my brother-in-law. It was Colossians 1:16-17. All things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. So there, a friend of ours, Marty Richards, had picked the one out from Charlotte the week before, and more times than not, it's something Michelle has picked out and has spoken to her. But yeah, try to do that every week. And I normally, I'll write it out if Michelle's not there, but I don't really soak it in and think about it until I'm sitting strapped into the truck, and before we fire the engines or whatever, I have a chance to kind of reflect on that. And sometimes if there's a caution flag or whatever, kind of, I feel like it recenters me some, as passionate, as wrapped up as we get on just kind of our single-mindedness of the moment. There is a bigger picture and a reason we're all here and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely appreciate that, and it's definitely good to have a Christian life that supports that and promotes that in our family.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know that you put it on your Instagram, your Twitter every single week, and I enjoy, and I know there's thousands of other people that enjoy reading that as well. So thank you and your wife for doing that and you sharing it on social. But Grant, I have to ask, how did this crazy racing story start, and when did it start? I mean, what age and why racing? You said you came from, a town of football players, not race car drivers.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've noticed my build, Johnny, but I'm 5'11", 160 or whatever, so I don't know if I'm NFL caliber, material. But for me, when I was 4 or 5 years old, my dad was a race fan. He would he would go to Talladega. Him and his buddies would rent a Greyhound bus. There'd be 30 or 40 guys go up there. They'd cook out. They'd drink and have fun. But he would watch the races every other week too. And he's a big Dale Senior fan. I was a big Davey Allison fan. We would just thoroughly enjoy racing together. He had a friend of his named Glenn Cooley, who raced, and his sons raced at the local track at Mobile, and we would go there, and really that just kind of started a fire burning to where, man, I wanted to race, so I wanted to drive a go-kart. And so, I think about age 5 or 6, I started, wearing my dad out, and I come from a long family of very stubborn individuals. I feel like, especially the men in our family are very, very stubborn. So I just wore my dad down. And at age 11, he bought a go-kart, and we started racing. And he's still currently, he's an attorney. He's more or less, most of the stuff he does is divorces, but a small town attorney, and absolutely has zero mechanical ability. He is a great guy, a great lawyer. He's an awesome dad. He's a great supporter. But I'm telling you, like, when I say zero mechanical ability, I mean, like, it's all he can do to fill his car up with gas. You know what I mean? He would never, like, try changing the oil. He has checked the air pressure a couple of times, I think, but like, I'm saying zero mechanical ability. So me at age 11, and my dad, being an attorney, didn't probably make the best team at the time when we were racing go-karts, but we had a lot of fun, and for him, I think it was just genuine fun with his son, and for me, it was fun to just drive. And when I was obviously competitive, I didn't like not being good. So, I was pretty young, trying to learn everything I could, and leaning on friends or whoever did know what kind of air pressure, what tires, or what gear we needed. That was more or less on me or a friend of his that would help his son Glenn, and all that. And when we started racing Legends cars at age 15, that's when I kind of took it upon myself to learn the mechanics of it. And it's never that I enjoyed the mechanical part of it. Is like, I was always a competitive spirit, and I wanted to win races kind of at whatever cost. So I knew that we weren't going to go hire a crew chief or somebody like that at that point in life to give me the fastest car. It was kind of, up to friends and me to make it happen. And my dad always supported it, and he was always great with it, and he would go to the races, and when he couldn't go to the races, there was times that my mom would go, or when I turned 16, there was times that he would let me and a buddy of mine go to the races ourselves, if he had to work or whatever. But yeah, it didn't come from a racing family, just always enjoyed it. And I would say, from lack of a better term, I was obsessive and stubborn, and just kind of wouldn't take no for an answer, more or less.
And people don't realize that about you. You are a mechanic. You know how to work on these cars and trucks.
So I do, and really the last 6 or 7 years, life has changed a little bit on that, to where I'm not doing that primarily. I'll still go to the shop and help the guys, and I like tinkering with that stuff, but that was never where the passion was for me. The passion was for winning races, and from beating the next guy that's at his best and stuff like that. But I was one of those guys that was kind of willing to do, whatever task I needed to do, I was kind of willing to do it, coming up through the ranks. And there was a lot of tasks that, I didn't want to do. And, there was opportunities that, some people probably would have frowned upon or didn't want to do. And, I would for the most part not turn down any opportunity. And I, looking back, there was a few of them I should have, but when I first made my first ARCA start, it was a starting park. I wasn't really racing, but that got me some practice laps. That got me some qualifying laps. That got me some experience. And there was other stuff that I just did kind of out of necessity because I wanted to be a racer, and didn't really have the means and wasn't maybe savvy enough to do stuff on the business end to make it all make sense at that time. But man, sometimes the struggle makes you appreciate it even more when you are able to have some success. And I feel like there's certain times that I see some kind of maybe younger guys coming around that don't appreciate the situation they're in, and they lose it, and then they realize it down the road or whatever. Well, I was one of those guys that maybe didn't have the best opportunities at the beginning, but it's since, man, I've had some incredible opportunities the last really 6 or 8 years to be in fully funded stuff, to be able to run for championships and run for wins and make a living doing it. That's all I ever really wanted, so I'm one of those guys that's living out my dream, but I truly realize that I'm living out my dream. And so I think it's allowed me to appreciate some of the successes that I've had, and where some of the other guys have maybe come in and already out and didn't realize how good they had it at the time. There's other guys that were in the same situation, but they had enough talent or they had enough persistence to where maybe they came in not appreciating it and not doing the things they were supposed to, but they since have learned that and have been able to be successful too. So anyway, yeah, you see all that stuff going on, and I'm in a series, in the Craftsman Truck Series where, I'm 38 years old. I've been racing since I was 11, and there's guys out there. I would say, I don't know what the stats are, but I'd say the average age in the Truck Series has got to be, 22 or 23 years old. I bet you half the guys are, 20 years old or younger. And, it's just, to me, I count it as a blessing. I think I was 31 years old as a rookie in the Truck Series, but man, I was a rookie with a great team and an opportunity to win races. And man, it's like I said, it's different than a lot of people's path, but it's something that I'm kind of proud of too.
Grant, we hear about the wins, we hear about all the great things, but through the years, have you ever doubted yourself, your ability? And I ask that because there are people listening right now, no matter what we do in life, there are times that, man, we feel like we're on top of that mountain and nothing's going to knock us down. And then an hour later, something happens and we realize that, man, this stinks. At any point in your racing career, have you ever doubted yourself?
Oh, man, like I feel like in the racing world, the emotional roller coaster that I go on is like, and I truly feel like in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty level headed. Like, compared to most guys that I talk to, that I know, that I race with, that I grew up with in all walks of life, like I consider myself pretty even keel, and I go through an emotional roller coaster every week or two. Like there is always times where we're living a high right now because we came off a win. The week before the first half of the race at Charlotte, I'm running 15th to 17th with my tongue hanging out, like doing everything I can do and can't march forward. And fortunately, we're able to throw some Hail Marys and make some stuff happen and come back some at the end. But man, the first half of that race, yeah, like I'm doubting me. I'm doubting everything around me. It's one of those sports I feel like that's more, I'm sure a lot of sports are like this, and maybe I just look at it from the racing side of things, but man, there's 36 guys out there. There's one winner. And, like our job is to win races. Like our job is not to run top 5. It's not to run top 10. So like we're not going to be happy if we don't win races, if we don't sit on poles, if we're not fastest in practice. And man, I was concerned with myself Friday when we left Gateway. I felt like I laid a lap down in qualifying and we're 10th. Like I felt like I did stuff right, and I felt like our truck was decent and all that stuff. And then I look on the speed charts, and we get a printout from Chevrolet of kind of where we are, where our average time is, where our quick time, where our slow time, and our average time. And you look on it, and we're 10th on average. We qualified 10th, and I'm thinking the truck is good. Well, okay, well maybe I'm off, And so yes, there is always a time that I feel like if racers are actually honest, that I'm sure everybody doubts themselves at some time, and doing what we do in racing, but also in life. A lot of your success comes from confidence, and like if you don't have the confidence that you can get it done, it just kind of spirals, out of control. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes, Johnny.
Grant, so let me ask you this then. How do you handle the stress when you're feeling that way? Or who is it that helps you handle that stress? Who is it that kicks you in the butt when you start to doubt yourself? Who is it for you? Is it your crew chief? Is it somebody on the team? Is it your wife? Is it a friend? Who is it?
I feel like there's certain times that I feel like, Jeff Hensley, my crew chief, has kind of been there for me to give me confidence when stuff isn't going good. But I feel like we have that kind of relationship where we both truly believe in each other, and we both truly know when the other one is off the rocker and when they are on point. And I feel like we know each other enough to be truly honest with each other, and we do truly believe in each other. So yeah, actually, before we won our race in Kansas, which has been about 5 weeks ago now, like Hensley came to me and gave me a little pep talk before the race, and that's actually the first time he's ever gave me a pep talk like he did. But there's been a lot of times, in our relationship that he's told me, like, I believe in you as a driver, and just communicate what you need, but you do everything on your end, and I'm going to do everything on our end, and we're just going to do the best we can. And then there's other times that he spun out, that people have him stressed out, and he's not thinking for himself. He's doing something because somebody else is in his ear, and I try to be that way for him. But anyway, yes, Jeff is there for me. My wife is there for me, and I feel like we've found kind of a home church finally the last couple of years, to where we actually have a church home and a church community, and I try to, and my wife is a very good, promoter of us kind of staying grounded and staying, trying to keep God in the center of our lives, which we don't always do, but I feel like I have a good promoter for that. And at the end of the day, all this stuff that we try to do, and we try to win races, and we try to do all this, and that's a fleeting happiness. That's something that is as hard as you work to do what we did this week to win the race. There was so many hours, so many people, so much stuff had to work itself out. So many people had to do their jobs and all that stuff. And that's one moment. You know what I mean? It's almost gone. If we didn't have 2 weeks off, it would already be gone for us, and it'd be all Nashville. And we're just worried about prepping it. Our sim session yesterday for Nashville didn't go very good. So that would be the stress level. We got a couple off weeks, so that's pushed off for a couple of days. So that, I think we consciously try to know that, like, do everything you can, prepare as well as you can, like, have the confidence you need in yourself. But at the end of the day, there is a bigger story.
Well, hey, speaking of stories, I want to go back to Michelle. A friend of ours told me to ask you. They said, Johnny, ask him about the story about him and his wife going fishing. Now, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into when I ask you that question, but what is this with you and your wife fishing?
Yeah, so that is a pretty good story. So I feel like the racing life is crazy. It's stressful and all that stuff. So when we do have an off weekend, I'm blessed that like Michelle likes to travel. I'm kind of an adventurer. There are times when we both want to stay home, but we do enjoy getting out and about and stuff like that. So this was 5 or 6 years ago. We're kind of in the grind of the season. It's the middle part of the summer. I know I kind of need to do something for Michelle to keep things happy at home and to get us a little break together or whatever. So I went on Groupon and found us like a little bed and breakfast deal.
Wait a second, Grant. Hang on a second. You're a famous race car driver and you went to Groupon?
So number one, I'm not that famous. Number two, I will always be somewhat of a cheapskate, Johnny. So, I mean,
I just want to make sure I heard you right.
Save a couple dollars, on stuff like that. Now, if the race car needs some brakes or tires or motor or whatever, it's all in. We'll do it second mortgage, third mortgage. We'll sell the house. It doesn't matter. But for vacations and for cars and for all that kind of stuff, no, the people that know me know I'm not out there just blowing money. So yeah,
I'm sorry
Groupon,
to interrupt. Okay, so you went to Groupon, you got this deal.
Found a nice little bed and breakfast. And I have no interest in a bed and breakfast, but I know that would like kind of speak Michelle's language. So I like every little getaway, every vacation, no matter what. Like we're from the coast of Alabama. We both enjoy the water. I love fishing. So any kind of getaway we have just happens to have a body of water that I can go fishing on. So Beaufort is right near the water in South Carolina, near Savannah and Hardyville and all that stuff. So it was a bed and breakfast for her, but it's kind of like brackish water fishing. It's like a little bit of fresh water, but more salt water. So you can kind of catch speckled trout, redfish, flounder. That's my kind of fishing. So I booked this bed and breakfast. And I'm like, hey, baby, we're going on a trip for 4th of July. It's a 3-day weekend, and we're going to have just a good, nice trip. But I'm going to bring the kayaks so we can go kayaking, too, because, that would be romantic and stuff like that. And she knew that I was going to go fishing. So in Beaufort, there are tides. There are tides everywhere, I guess, in the world. But there are significant tides, meaning like the water goes up and it comes down, and it's like a 10-foot difference from high tide to low tide. So that being the story, and I actually had my brother-in-law called and warned me because he knew where we were going and all that. He's like, just be aware of the tides. Well, like we're driving down there and I get to, Googling, where do you go fishing or whatever. And so there's a little, I don't know, some sort of blog. There's this place, you go to Paris Island, you go to this, state park, you walk 100 feet through the woods, and then there's this little canal that this guy had caught redfish in. So anyway, how I found this place, it was just like a rabbit hole on Google. So I somehow convinced Michelle to do this with me. And we hike the kayaks. It's not a huge hike, but we park where we're supposed to park, and we have to hike to this little canal. And so we put the kayaks in the canal, and we get to going, and there is nobody around. I mean, zero, nobody else parked in the state park. There is nobody around. So we get to going through, and we're just in this little canal that couldn't be more than 6 or 8 feet wide. It's like a big ditch, and there's like really tall grass on either side. So if you were to stand up in the kayak, you could not see over this grass. And it's a twisting and turning canal, so really narrow, like basically a big ditch. And this canal feeds out to this bay. So Michelle, like right off the bat, she is worried. We came from South Alabama where there is alligators everywhere, and she is worried that like an alligator is going to come out of this grass, and like that's all she wrote. Grant and Michelle are gone. Nobody hears from them again or whatever. But she's up for adventures, but she wants to be extra safe. I'm up for adventures, but I want to get home alive. But to me, like a little bit of struggle or a little bit of worriedness or a heart rate elevated is kind of good for me. So anyway, we're coming at it from two different aspects. So we're kayaking through this canal and the tide is going out, which, okay, I wasn't that worried about. Like, I had been warned about it, but I wasn't that worried about it. I just knew that we're going out to this main body of water, which is where I wanted to go fishing anyway. And we're basically not even having to paddle. The water is going so quickly that we're going out of this canal, and like I'm fishing along the way or whatever, but I'm having to like backpedal a pretty good bit to just sit in one spot to fish. So we end up, we probably go 1.5 miles or 2 miles out of this canal, and it feeds us into the main water that I wanted to get to. So we pull our kayaks up on the beach, and I'm catching some little trout, and we actually are catching little baby sharks. They weren't more than a foot or a foot and a half long. And I'm the kind of guy, when I'm fishing, I'm not like a sports fisherman. I don't have to catch a certain fish on a certain lure or whatever. Like, I just like to fish, it's just a hobby for me.
Yep.
So we're fishing, and we're fishing for a solid 3 or 4 hours. And then now she's ready to go. I could stay there all day, but she's ready to turn around and go home or whatever. And this was her getaway now. I sold her on the bed and breakfast, and this is your weekend out or whatever. And this is just my little, fishing trip that we squeezed in along the way. So I wear out for another 30 minutes or an hour of fishing. And then so we turned to go back in. And at this point, she's kind of done. She's out there longer than she wanted to. There is zero shade. Now we're out of water. We've ate whatever little snack that she brought with her for her, and she's done. So we're paddling in, and we get like one curve or maybe two curves in, and there is no water. Like, no water. It is literally just mud. Like, not even a trace of water. And so immediately I realized what had happened. Like, the tide is out, and it was a way bigger tide than I had accounted for. So at this point, I'm like, well, baby, let's just, kayak back out to the main body of water, and I'll fish a couple more hours or whatever, and we'll come back in. And then she gives me that look of like, no, like you are absolutely not going to enjoy yourself while I'm miserable. So we're going in no matter what. I'm like, so, okay, what do you do? So I get out of my kayak and I step in the mud, and it's literally like past my shins, almost to my kneecap. Like, it's that soft. Like, there is no, like, beyond zero chance of us walking our way back to where we launched our kayaks at. So she is just beyond livid, And I said, I tried again to convince her to go back out, and I'll just fish a little bit or whatever, and then we'll wait for the water to come in. And then the water, like I'd sold her on, the water is just going to float us back in. We won't even have to paddle.
Right.
And she was not having any of it. She is just done, And so I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll just sit here and wait for the water to bring us in. Well, we just sat there, and I don't know how much time had passed, but like 10 minutes or whatever, nothing happened. So we're probably at the time of like all the way low tide, and maybe it's an hour or two transition before water comes back in, whatever. I don't know. So she finds like a stick and puts it in the ground or whatever to see if the water is moving, and she can't see the water moving. And, maybe it's a half an hour. I have no idea what the time frame is at this point, but it's however long. Enough water comes in to where we can float and kind of scoot with our butts to the next curve. And we get to the next curve, and it's all mud again. And we do this process for like an hour and a half or 2 hours. And she is like, every second that goes by, she's like boiling, and she's getting redder. And hotter and sunburn and just flat out pissed off,
Right.
And this was her vacation, and I've ruined it, obviously. And then we go for a little ways, and then all of a sudden, I feel like it's those people walking through the desert and they see an oasis. All of a sudden, there's this big pool of water, and there's mud on the other side of it, but all leading up to it is our canal. We get enough water to get to this huge pool of water, and there's fish breaking the water.
So you're happy at this point. You're like, yes.
Happy, and she can see my face is like pure joy. And she gives me this scowl like, you better not throw a line in this water because I'm pissed off and you're not allowed to have fun while my day is ruined, So obviously, at that point, I don't care. And, I go fishing anyway. And I'll hook into a really, really big redfish. And she had enough care in her heart that she was actually, once I hooked the redfish, she was genuinely happy enough to where she took a video for me and had, watched me reel it in or whatever. And she did have a little bit of softness in her heart towards me. But we finally, I caught the big redfish. I'm like, all right, it's done. And I probably fought him for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. And it was fun. That's what I came there to catch. And it was all great. And at that time, water was actually starting to come in. So I put the redfish back. Wasn't like I was keeping them or anything. And we slowly but surely paddled our way all the way back to the launch where we got, but there still wasn't enough water there. So it's me and Michelle's a small girl. It's me and her in these two kayaks, and the bank where we first dropped our kayaks in is now probably 6 feet up there, whereas maybe it was 2 feet when we dropped it in.
Right.
And it's a huge, 90-degree just mud bank. And I was like, baby, the only thing we can do is, fish a little while and just wait for the water to come up. And she's like, no, we are leaving and I don't care what it takes. So we climbed up this mud banking and pulled these kayaks out and marched our kayaks back to the truck. And I had to throw away the water shoes that I was wearing were caked with mud so much you could hardly walk. The mud was just, it's not normal mud. It's like quicksand mud. I don't know. It's impossible to walk through. So anyway, we basically ruined our shoes, ruined our day. We ended up where I'd sold her on a 3 or 4 hour little fishing thing for the morning. Now it's 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And we leave there and we go straight to this gas station to clean ourselves up. And we're both straight red because we didn't have sunscreen. We put sunscreen on before we went, but we didn't go with us. We're kayaking, and we're both famished from, water and food and stuff like that. So she was still married to me afterwards, but it was a long evening. I had to do a lot of making up for that one. So, but it was I'm sorry that story ended up so long, but it was
no, I love it.
It was a fun, crazy adventure, but she literally has not gone kayaking with me since then.
Well, so. You brought up sharks, and I know that you're a race car driver, and I appreciate you talking about other things than just racing, because this is how fans get to know you, right? Well, Shark Week is coming up, and I'm just wondering, would you ever go diving with the sharks? Or maybe you have.
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't say that I'm particularly scared of sharks. I grew up, going fishing in the Gulf and stuff like that. But I would never encourage anybody to get in there, to get in a cage just so you can see a shark. Why wouldn't you just watch them on TV or whatever? You know what I mean? I have no desire to try to poke the bear. Now, to catch sharks or to catch whatever fish or to go out there and go night fishing and not know what's on the end of the line and all. Yeah, I think that's fun. But to get in a cage with a shark on purpose, I don't see the point in that. That's kind of like jumping out of an airplane. I get that's an adrenaline rush or something. To me, my brain doesn't work that way. I'm
so you wouldn't do that either?
No, absolutely not.
Hey, Grant, with only a couple minutes left, I'm going to get as many of these fan questions as I possibly can in here. Can you describe to all of us what it's like to get inside your race truck and hit speeds of over 200 miles per hour? Can you kind of like just real quickly just tell us what that feels like?
Man, to me, I'm probably not the best person to answer that, because I think people race for different reasons or whatever. I feel like some people race for like the glory, or some people race because they're adrenaline junkies and they love the speed. And I strictly race for the competition. I love the competition. I love the fact that when we win, we beat somebody else at their best. And I genuinely enjoy the competition part of it. And the speeds are something that kind of hit me afterwards when we wreck or when we come to a sudden stop, and I will say that like the Talladegas and the Daytonas of the world, you truly don't realize how fast you're going until something goes wrong. But there's other places that we go, like Mile and a Half, Kansas, for instance, or Charlotte or whatever, that you are just truly hauling the mail and you stop the gas and your G-forces go back, or just the side load G-forces, you're like really feeling it at some of those places. And but it's never been about the adrenaline. It's never been about the speed. It's always been about the competition for me.
Okay.
But yeah, it gets your attention, those sudden stops and when stuff does go wrong, you realize it. And in those instances where you spin out and somehow you don't hit anything and people are blasting by you on both sides, and you're like, man, there's certain times where you're genuinely, scared,
right?
But yeah, it's that part of it has always been trumped by the competition standpoint for me.
Do you prefer racing the big tracks like Daytona, Talladega, or the small tracks like Bristol, and why?
I like the short tracks. I like, we didn't run particularly that well at Wilkesboro, but I like the tracks that are low grip, that aero doesn't mean as much, but like mechanical grip and driver, the driver can make a difference. You have to be smooth on the accelerator. You have to have an egg under your foot. I like those kind of tracks. So like Wilkesboro, Richmond, the old wore out asphalt tracks is what I enjoy. And I think that's because we have so many of the tracks that are like hammered down, wide open, where so much throttle, so much aero dependency. I like kind of more the old school wore out tire management places.
Okay, when it comes to like pre-race, do you pump yourself up by listening to some good country music, maybe some good Southern rock or maybe some rap, or would you rather have some like quiet time to focus and reflect?
So like when I'm driving to the track in the morning and stuff, sometimes I'll try to pick out some old twangy country music just because that's what I enjoy. But before the race, things most of the time are pretty crazy and hectic on race day. So I've gotten in the habit to where, after I put my fire suit on, whether I'm in the lounge or even if I'm just out at the truck, I try to get in the truck a minute or two early and just kind of center myself, kind of go over what this restart is going to be, what the initial start of the race is going to be, what move I think my competitors around me are going to make, what I'm anticipating. I try to anticipate that as much as I can for the first start. And then that kind of clears everything. After that, you just go off of instinct. So I feel like that helps me just kind of clear my head, because a lot of times there's stuff that's, it's sad to say this, but completely off subject that's going on. Like you're there to win the race and you're there to do everything you can to win that race. That's what your job. But there's so much other stuff going on that has nothing to do with performance on race day that I feel like I do my best to try to find some quiet time to recenter myself and to truly, kind of be, more or less anticipate that first start and just kind of be at one with what I'm trying to do again.
Do you prefer racing during the day or at night, and why?
from a performance standpoint, I would rather it be in the daytime where the tracks get hotter and slicker and where there is more throttle control involved. And then from a spoiled truck racer standpoint, it's cooler at night and it gets really, really hot in these trucks. So a daytime race, whatever it is outside, it's going to be, a solid 30, maybe 40 degrees hotter in the truck. But nighttime, it's like half of that, So from a comfort standpoint, I'll say nighttime racing, but from what puts on a better show for the fans and what puts on like a better type of racing, I would prefer daytime racing. I will say it was pretty warm at Gateway this weekend, so it was in the mid 90s, I think. So daytime races are a little bit, tougher for the guys in the truck on that point, but it's tougher for the fans too to be sitting up in there.
Sweet or unsweet tea?
You may consider me not a Southerner, but I don't like tea.
What?
Everybody else in my family, they love tea. They love watermelon, all the true Southern stuff. And I don't like tea.
Grant, one last thing, and I promise I'm going to wrap it up. And that is, what is your favorite trophy in your man cave, in your house, or in your trophy case? And I'm not talking about just with NASCAR. I'm talking about throughout your years.
Man, one of the coolest ones, I guess, and one that I'm more proud of, I guess, is winning the clock at Martinsville a few years ago. And not just for winning that race in Martinsville, but for what it meant. We had to win that race to make it into the championship race there at Phoenix. That's at my dad's house. That's pretty special to me. And then I guess the one that means probably even more than that was my first ever ARCA win was at my home track in Mobile, and it was a jukebox. It was a Crosley jukebox, and
sweet.
Still to this day is one of the coolest trophies in racing, I think, and it's useful too. You can play the radio on it still today, and Carson's always pushing the buttons on it now and making it light up. But I'll still, there'll be a lot of times if I'm running on the treadmill or whatever, I'll crank the jukebox up, I'll turn the lights on, and it's just a really awesome and functional trophy.
Grant Enfinger, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us. Thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Johnny. It was great talking to you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Motivational Cowboy. We'll see you next week right here on the Outstanding Life Podcast. Hey, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Are you planning a conference, convention, meeting, assembly, or any live event that needs a guest speaker? I would love to be a part of it. For more information, visit motivationalcowboy.com. Have an outstanding day.
Thanks for listening to the Outstanding Life Podcast. Follow Johnny D on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Motivational Cowboy. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, advertise, or would like to make a donation, please visit motivationalcowboy.com. And remember to have an outstanding day.